England. It is home to royalty, elegance, and as well a proud and honest people, with a voice that not only has a unique sense of humor, but is spoken with valor and dignity. And despite many attempts of other powers attempting to silence this great voice throughout history, they have failed only to make the people of Great Britain stand taller and wiser. And today we are looking at a unique city that has been the center of pop culture, political ideals, literacy, and art throughout all of its history. A city that has had great moments, but also has scars from its history to give it a great character. The city known as London. London. It is a magnificent city with a metro area population of 13,879,757 people as of 2015. And the size of London's metro stretches out to 8,382 kilometers square. And it's amazing, this city has over 22 postal codes and 9 area codes for the telephone. And speaking of area, this is an area that has had a lot of history that dates back to, well, over 2,000 years ago. And when I hear about stuff like that, I'm like, wait, how did London start? Like, I mean, how did we get places like Piccadilly Circus, you know, the Palace? Like, how did we get all those places? Well, for that, we gotta go back in time and look at its history. Scientists and archaeologists now have a pretty good clue that people were living around the area of the River Thames way back to over 2,000 years ago. Scientists found an old part of a bridge in 1999 that dated its wood back to 1500 BC. With also a large timber structure dating back to approximately 4000 BC, which was found south of the Vauxhall Bridge. But if we were to dip into folklore, which is something we really don't do on this channel, people would say that the area of London was founded by Brutus of Troy in 1000 to 1100 BC, and this was after he defeated a giant called Gog-Magog. And although folklore is fun, we should really skip into the actual history of London. Now there is evidence that shows there was a Brythonic settlement in the area during the Roman times of 43 AD. But however, these settlements were destroyed in 61 AD by Queen Bosida of the Iceni tribes. But by the time the Romans came into the area, they completely restructured everything. And between the years of 180 to 220 AD, the Roman city of Londinium, which is where London currently resides, at this time had approximately 60,000 people and was the capital of the region and also had a giant wall constructed around it. And to date, many coins were found from that time, but the one thing that's funny about the wall itself is they really have no idea why it was built. However, this only lasted till about the 5th century when the Roman Empire crashed and burned, leaving the city completely abandoned, with the Anglo-Saxon settlement, Ludenwick, being built nearby. And throughout history, this poor little town was attacked numerous times by the Vikings. But by 886, the Great Viking or Great Heathen Army was defeated by the Anglo-Saxon king Alfred the Great. And he was famous for reconstructing London and putting people back within the Roman city. This is because he moved the citizens from Ludenwick back into the old Roman city in order to protect them from the attacking Vikings. The old city of London was renamed to Ludenburg, and just as Alfred the Great expected, in 994 the Vikings attacked again. However, this time they had reconstructed the walls and the Vikings attacked only to suffer extreme losses that would result in the collapse of their empires. Now let's fast forward to the 11th century, because at this time London was the biggest city in all of the United Kingdom. And many people like to think the UNESCO heritage site, Westminster Abbey, might have been actually created during Roman times because it looks very Roman. However, it was founded in 960, and this 32 square feet structure, with a tower height of 225 feet, was not only the most grandiose churches in all of Europe, but it served as the location where William, the Duke of Normandy, who was the first Norman king of England, was crowned on Christmas Day in 1066, after winning the Battle of Hastings between the Normans and the French. By the 1300s, London itself had grown to a population of over 100,000 people, but that wasn't going to stay for long. This is because the Black Plague had struck the city, and London, like many other cities, was hit the hardest, with the city losing a third of its population. Because let's be honest, you guys were here to hear some cool facts about maybe even the modern day London. Like, what is so great about London today? Why is it so fascinating? Well, first of all, because of London's history and culture, it attracts over 19.98 million people a year as of 2016, making London the second most visited city in the entire world, next to Bangkok. And this isn't only due to the fact that London's very multicultural and because it's got a great history and it's cool, place to be, it's got a lot of cool structures to see. If you include the Westminster Abbey, the city has 6 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, such as the Tower of London, Greenwich, St. Margaret's Westminster, the Old Royal Navy College, and of course, the Royal Palace of Westminster. And let's be honest, I think a lot of people go there just because they want to see the Royal Guards and try to tease them, because they don't move. But speaking about the Royal Guards, let's talk about what the guards actually guard, and that is the palace. The house that is meant for the meeting of the House of Commons and the House of Lords was first constructed in 1016. Now, the original palace was unfortunately destroyed in 1834, and this was called the Burning of Parliament Buildings. And the building we know of today began reconstruction in 1840, finishing around 1870. Now, the fire in 1934 accidentally began when a stove overheated, setting fire to the House of Lords room. And although most of the palace went up in flames, fortunately the Westminster Hall was not nearly as damaged, and as of today still remains as the oldest part of the entire palace. And now you may not know this, but when we look at like Big Ben, you guys probably think the whole tower is called Big Ben. It's actually called Elizabeth Tower, and Big Ben refers to the bells within the tower, not the building itself. One other thing that I do love about London is it's not just its architecture that's beautiful, but it's also its trees. As a matter of fact, some people call it the Forest City. This is because the city attempts to remain green, as 40% of the area is dedicated to green space. And one of the largest of these within the city is Richmond Park. It is over 955 hectares or 2,359 acres. And although it may be considered the largest royal park, it is second to the Lee Valley Park, which is just outside the city and has over 10,000 acres. Another thing that also makes London very unique from other cities throughout the world is it's very multicultural. The city has over 300 ethnic groups and languages spoken across the 32 boroughs within the city. And yes, it is considered one of the most multicultural areas in a small amount of space. You might have also heard that London is considered a rainy city and that it rains all the time in London. Ironically, if you were to actually look at it, this place gets less rain than places like Sydney, Miami, or Orlando in Florida. London is a city that is a working machine, a home to great intellects and knowledge in many different fields from art to astronomy. And to prove this, London has over 154 recognized sites that are committing to higher education. From places like the University of Westminster to the University of Oxford, the city has over 2 million students training to become better people. It is also a city that has the record for hosting the most amount of Summer Olympics. The most recent one it hosted was its third time in 2012, but the very first time they hosted was in 1908, and it earned the right to host it for a second time in 1948, and this was right after the Olympics took a 12-year break because of the Second World War. London may also serve as the capital of all of the United Kingdom. It is not just home to the Queen, but it is also home to a lot of economy. London is ranked as the world's leading financial center for international business, and the city generates 22% of the GDP in all of the United Kingdom. And in 2009, it handled 36.7% of global currency transactions, which was a daily turn of $1.85 trillion in US, which is way more than New York. Sorry, New York. But besides its economy, it remains capital because in the UK, 70% of the trains within the country either start or finish.
The United Kingdom, commonly referred to as the UK, is made up of 4 countries: England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. The United Kingdom is considered a constitutional monarchy with a parliamentary system of governance. The monarch, of course, is Queen Elizabeth II, and she's reigned since the 6th of February 1952, and the capital city of the United Kingdom is London. The origins of the United Kingdom can be traced back to the time of the Anglo-Saxon king Athelstan, and early on in the 10th century he managed to get the allegiance of neighboring Celtic kingdoms, and that's when he began to rule over several kingdoms that previously before several kings used to share amongst themselves. The United Kingdom is the most recent of the sovereign states that have been established by Great Britain. A treaty was signed in 1707 that united England and Scotland, and that became a unified kingdom of Great Britain. Great Britain then merged together with the Kingdom of Ireland, which had gradually been brought under English control for some time. And finally they formed the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland in 1801. Now the name United Kingdom and Great Britain continued for some time, but in 1927 it was changed to the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. This was because of the partition of Ireland. Ireland was divided into two separate jurisdictions, Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland in the south. And that's when it became the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So as the name suggests, the United Kingdom is made up of several kingdoms, as we just saw. But how can the United Kingdom be a country and at the same time be made up of other countries? Well, you see, the confusion happens because of the use of the word country. Let me explain. While the four countries that make up the United Kingdom are considered separate in the minds of the local people, as well as in certain sporting events, their powers for local law and control are actually devolved from the UK. In other words, the United Kingdom delegates the amount of control that these countries have. Think of it like the United States. Okay, so all of the 50 states have their own separate state laws. However, they all have to answer to the federal government of the United States of America. Except in the United Kingdom's case, the countries, or the states if you will, they're identified as distinct national entities. Therefore, that's why the term country is used. However, of the four countries that make up the United Kingdom, England is the only country that doesn't devolve any powers from the UK. Instead, England actually operates directly under the UK government. This is also emphasized in the fact that London is the capital of England as well as it's the capital of the United Kingdom. The term Great Britain refers to the large island that is made up of England, Scotland, and Wales. More confusion happens now because the United Kingdom and Britain are commonly used as synonyms around other parts of the world. But to make sure that you remember this a lot easier and to keep it simple, just remember this following breakdown. We have the UK. The UK is a country that's made up of the following countries: England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Great Britain, on the other hand, is only the body of land that makes up England, Scotland, and Wales. England is just the part of the body of land that the country of England occupies. In using the term British, it can refer to anywhere in the UK. British people, or Britons, are citizens of the United Kingdom, the British Overseas Territories, and the Crown Dependencies in the Irish Sea and the Bailiwicks of Jersey. So I hope that brings a lot more clarification of what the United Kingdom actually is and clarify what it means when people say Great Britain versus the United Kingdom. Yeah, life and geography and history can get a little bit tricky, but that's why you have us here at FTD Facts. So that first part was really technical, so let's move on to some fun facts of the United Kingdom now. Did you know that at its peak in the 18th century, the British Empire stretched across 20% of the world's surface? And at the time, it contained a quarter of the world's total population. The Windsor Castle is the largest royal home in the world, as well as it's the oldest continually inhabited royal residence in Britain. It was built by William the Conqueror around AD 1080. Back in 2001, the British Foreign Secretary Robin Cook declared Chicken Tikka Masala is now a true British national dish, not only because it's the most popular, but because it's a perfect illustration of the way Britain absorbs and adopts external influences. So yeah, that's Britain's national dish, not tea and crumpets like some of you guys thought. The national anthem for the United Kingdom is called God Save the Queen.
God save our gracious Queen, long live our noble Queen.
And that is because currently right now there is a queen as the monarch. Now when the ruling monarch is a man, the lyrics change to God Save the King. Okay guys, so you see this clock right here? That's known as the Big Ben, right? The Big Ben only refers to the bell on the clock.
This is Big Ben. It's a bell weighing 13.5 tons.
Big Ben is a nickname for the great bell of the clock at the north end of the palace in Westminster in London. Big Ben is often used to identify the whole entire clock anyways, but in reality, Big Ben is just the bell, guys. Britain is pretty unusual in the sense that it has an unwritten constitution. Now, what does that even mean? Unlike a large majority of the countries on the earth, there's no single legal document that sets out all the fundamental laws on how Britain should work. It's been suggested that the British Constitution can be summed up in these 8 words, and I quote, "What the Queen in Parliament enacts is law." That means that Parliament, using the power of the Queen, when they enact a law, no one else can change that.
We have the Netherlands, 855,000, 5%. Now, the Netherlands has a long history with the religion of Islam. The Netherlands has a rough population of around 17.1 million, out of which 5% are Muslims. The majority of Dutch Muslims have their roots in the countries of Turkey as well as Morocco. The Muslim population in the Netherlands increased after the Second World War. The Muslim community of the Netherlands includes people from Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, as well as Somalia. Most Dutch Muslims are from the sect of Sunni, and around 80% of Turkic Dutch Muslims are Sunni and 85% of Moroccan Dutch Muslims are Sunni. Religiosity differs from person to person and from community to community. Some Muslims in the Netherlands, they have never visited mosques before, and some visit the mosques weekly, while others do their religious activities every single day. Now moving on to the country at number 9, France, 3.35 million, 5%. Concrete data is very challenging to come by because the French Republic considers ethnic and religious affiliation to be a very private matter. Now France has approximately 3.35 million Muslim residents, and almost half of the Muslim population is under the age of 24 years old. Now the Muslim population in France come from various different parts of the world, like from North Africa, Algeria, and Morocco. And the greatest number of Muslims actually came to France in the contemporary era in the wake of the colonial wars of independence. From there, the country at number 8 is Bulgaria. 690,000, 7.8%. Now, Islam in Bulgaria is a minority religion and the second largest religion after Christianity. According to the 2011 census, there were 577,139 Muslims in Bulgaria, accounting for 7.8% of the population. But then from there, Muslims now account for 15% of the population, according to a later 2017 estimate, where 690,000 Muslims are in the country. Muslims in Bulgaria are Turks, Bulgarians, and Roma who live primarily in northeastern Bulgaria and the Rhodope Mountains. The country of Georgia comes in at number 7, 397,000, 10.7%. Although the country's official promoted national identity is closely associated with Christianity, while around 10.7% of the total population of Georgia is Muslim. There are 3 communities of Muslims in Georgia. Georgia's Azeris, Muslims in Adjara, as well as Kists. Georgia's Azeris are the largest Muslim community, which primarily consists of Shias, and Muslims of Adjara, Georgia, are estimated to be around 120,000, which makes up over 30% of its Muslim population. The rest of the people are Christians. The country of Montenegro comes in at number 6, 130,000, 20%. Muslims in Montenegro form the largest minority religion in the country. Muslims in the country are around 130,000, making up 20% of the total population of the country. The Muslims in the country are divided into 3 main groups: Bosniaks who speak Bosnian, Muslims by nationality who prefer Serbian, Montenegrins who speak Montenegrin, as well as ethnic Albanians who are all Slavic Muslims. Albanians are a distinct ethnic group who speak their language Albanian and live primarily in the southeast, where they constitute the vast majority of the population. Number 5 leads us to the country of Russia, 14 million, 30%. The country's Grand Mufti, Raul Gayuddin, said that the Muslim population in Russia has been growing with every passing day. He said that in 15 years, 30% of the total population of Russia would be Muslim. Now, the number of people performing prayers during Islamic festivals has increased compared to the previous years. Now, there has also been an increase in the number of mosques in Russia. Now, the increase in population is primarily due to 2 factors: a high birth rate among Muslim families and the arrival of people from Central Asia. So who knows? Russia in the future might have a much more massive Muslim population at the rate it's going right now. Let's look at country number 4, Republic of Macedonia, 687,000, 33.33%. Around 33.33% of the population is Muslim, and Macedonian Muslim culture and history, they have contributed to their position within Macedonian society. Despite Macedonia's reputation for secularism and the separation of state and religion, well, its constitution recognizes Islam as equal to other religions. The establishment of Association of Macedonian Muslims, also known as Dar al-Ifta, was critical in preserving the position of Islam as well as its legal manifestations and practices in the country. Bosnia and Herzegovina come in at number 3, 1.8 million, 51%. So yes, around 51% of the population of Bosnia and Herzegovina identify as Muslim. Bosnia and Herzegovina is predominantly ethno-religious, with ethnicity determining religious affiliation. Most Muslims are Bosniaks, and the majority of them are Orthodox Christians. So yeah, around 51% of the population of Bosnia and Herzegovina identify as Muslim. Bosnia and Herzegovina is predominantly ethno-religious, meaning that ethnicity really determines religious affiliation. So check it out. Most Muslims are Bosniaks, and the majority of Orthodox Christians are Bosnian Serbs, and the majority of Catholic Christians are Bosnian Croats. Now, it is extremely rare for someone to convert to a different religion, and children of inter-ethnic marriages, on the other hand, are frequently non-religious. Muslims and Christians, they have coexisted for years in this country, and it doesn't look like that's going to be changing anytime soon. From there, let's look at country number 2, Albania, 1.7 million, 80%. At one point, Muslims made up 80% of the Muslim. Well, that number is closer to 60% because at one point, and actually that 80% is probably closer to 60% because at one point, Muslims made up as much as 80% of the total population. But that number now is estimated to be closer to 60%. Again, statistics are never 100%, they're just estimates. But either way, Islam arrived in Albania primarily during the Ottoman period, when most Albanians converted to Islam over time. And throughout the 20th century, democratic as well as other various different governments and powers in place, they pursued a systematic de-religionization of the Albanian nation and culture. And as a result of this, Islam, like all other faiths in the country, underwent huge transformations. The post-communist period, as well as the removal of legal and other government restrictions on religion, enabled Islam in the end to sort of resurrect. And finally, at number 1, we have the country of Kosovo, 1.9 million, 96%. So yes, this is a standing percentage. Kosovo is where 96% of its 2 million residents are Muslim, and it's remained like this for quite a while actually. Although it does remain a Western and largely pro-American country where bars coexist with mosques. However, there are signs that conservative Islam is growing in the country. Following the war in 1999, there were approximately 200 mosques, and there are now more than 800 mosques. Every month, a new mosque is built pretty much, and more women walk the streets of the country wearing black, fully covered Islamic attire. And also men are seen with untrimmed beards, and calf-length trousers are more common now. And these are identifying marks of conservative Muslims.